You're tuned in to Ask the Master Auto Technician. Car questions? Get answers right now. Call 850-763-0555.
James Auto Center, we fix it right, guaranteed. Beep, 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 yeah.
All right, good morning. Welcome back to our second half of Ask the Master Auto Technician. I have Brian Armstead calling all the way from Maryland. And Brian, good morning, sir. How are we doing today?
I'm great. How are you this morning, James?
Doing very well. My arm is sore from spinning honey this week, but that will pass. But you've been spinning a lot of cars out there, I understand. You said you're going to be reporting on, 5 cars? Is that what you said?
Well, it doesn't necessarily mean that I've driven them all.
Oh, okay.
I've driven quite a few cars over the, over the course of the year.
Yes, sir.
But, you can kind of get a sense of what a manufacturer is doing, and their DNA, so to speak, kind of bleeds down from car to car.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to talk about some of the top picks for spring.
Oh.
If you want to, spring is always a great time to buy a car.
Now, why is that?
I'm sorry?
Why is that? Why is spring a better time to buy a car? I don't know.
I didn't say it was a better time to buy a car. It's a good time to buy a car. The best time to buy a car is at the end of the model year and at the end of the calendar year. Pardon me. At the end of the model year, you have a changeover from this year to be a changeover from 16 to 17,
mm-hmm.
although a lot of 2017 models are already on the market. Then at the end of the calendar year,
mm-hmm.
You change from 2016 physically to 2017. And a lot of people, they want the newest and best and greatest, and they don't necessarily want, for example, Kia is coming out with a 2017 Kia Cadenza. It's a mid-sized luxury car,
mm-hmm.
great car. I almost bought one a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
So when they come out with that car in the fall, they'll have nationwide a percentage of 2016 models that they'll have to blow out just to clear dealer lots of these 2016 models.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to introduce a new car and have the parasitic effect of a 2016 kind of bleeding off your inventory.
Right.
When you put so much hope on the new car.
That makes sense because back in 2008, December 2008, my wife and I went out and bought a brand new Kia because we didn't want to give the money to the Internal Revenue Service. So we bought a new car instead to make it a loaner car. But they were having closeout prices at the end of the year, buy a brand new 2008 at the end of 2008 because the 2009s were there already. So that makes good sense. And that makes very good sense. I like that.
Well, speaking of Kia, one of my top cars on the list is the Kia Soul.
Oh.
Now, we all know about the hamsters, and that's all cute. And the hamsters are coming back, by the way.
Are they? Good.
Yeah, they're coming back. But when you think about a vehicle that you can take to the beach, that you can take to church and put, 5 people inside, that has a tall roof line so big guys like me can sit up straight, and has a solid build quality and a 100,000-mile warranty on top of that, you've got to look at the Kia Soul. It brings more to the table than just this quirky styling. There's a lot of interior space. You've got big windows to go with the chair-like seats that I just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
The ride is a little stiff. The 2-liter 4-cylinder engine is just adequate in acceleration, but boy, is this thing fun to drive.
I bet
You'll get about 26, 27 miles a gallon, and you can outfit it with a lot of options: heated seats, navigation, backup camera. You can even get an electric version in California. I know you're pretty far away from California, but some of your listeners are on the internet.
Right.
And it's just a lot of, like the stereo, for example, it has the subwoofers in the doors glow different colors. So you can pick like a red theme or a green theme, just depending on your mood. Ford has that in their cars as well. But the Kia Soul, the retail price is about $17,000 to about $23,000, and I just think it's an all-around fun car to drive.
Now, who does it see? Now, I remember when the Xbox came out and the Scion, the Square Scion, and all that. They all have that similar square box shape. You have I think if I'm not mistaken, they were originally designed for the baby boomer. They were making it for, not the baby boomer, for the millennials. They wanted a newer model for the 30-year-olds, but the 30-year-olds didn't like it as much as the older people liked it, is what I was reading. And I was like,
the Scion XB.
Yeah, that's...
Is that what you call the Xbox?
Yeah,
The XB?
that's what I call the Xbox. Is buying an XB, right?
I was trying to figure out how video games tied into the
Well,
same equation, but
it looks like a box, and I call it the Xbox. But they were designed for 30-year-olds. The millennials, or the Y generation, or whatever it's called, and they didn't really take off. But mom and pop generation, my generation,
oh my God, you saw them all over.
Yeah.
You saw them all over Fort Lauderdale and parts of Florida. It's just crazy.
And you can load everything in there. Kids, grandkids, beach umbrellas. I bet you could get half a house in that thing.
You sure could. Let's up the fun equation a little bit here, James, and go with the Chevrolet Camaro. Now, I'm choosing the Camaro over the Ford Mustang by a whisper. And the reason that I'm choosing the Camaro over the Ford Mustang is because yesterday I received the latest Insurance Institute for Highway Safety crash test ratings for the so-called muscle cars, the Camaro, the Dodge Challenger, and the Ford Mustang. And the Chevy Camaro came out on top. And the offset frontal crash, it performed very well, very well. And, Chevrolet, General Motors has really done a lot to improve their crash performance. I buy my cars based on safety. And I think if you want a performance muscle car, the Chevy Camaro is a good look. The windows are a little small for a big person if you're trying to get out in an emergency. It's got a very, very short, very narrow window aperture. So if that were the case, you might want to consider the Chevy Camaro convertible. Of course, in an emergency, you could just stick a knife in the roof and cut your way out.
That's so true, because hopefully you won't have an emergency. But on these cars, on the crash safety rating between the Camaro, the Mustang, and say the Dodge Challenger or Charger, are those about the equivalent? Okay.
The Challenger's the coupe.
Okay, yeah, Challenger, that's right. Which one is the safest of those three cars with the big three manufacturers right there?
Well, you didn't hear a word I just said because...
You said the Camaro was, but I'm trying to make sure my audience is listening, because that's what I think you're saying, is the Camaro is more safer in a wreck?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It came out... I'm sorry I didn't make myself clear, James. It came out on top in the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety crash test ratings.
Wow.
Had good ratings across the board.
Wow.
The Mustang had one marginal rating. The Challenger was challenging.
Challenging.
Didn't do as well as it should have. And unfortunately, a lot of the Fiat Chrysler products are, including some of the Jeep models, are in need of some safety upgrades in terms of their crash performance. Stay tuned. They'll get it right. They're building some good cars.
I did have a comment. I did have a comment on our video last week about the 2017 Jeep Cherokee. People said great information. I had a couple videos on YouTube talk about great information, James. I'm glad to hear that. But when is the 2017 rollouts coming out? And I think I wanted to tell him they were already rolled out on the Cherokee. Am I wrong, or did you get a first viewing on it, on that Cherokee? I'm
not totally sure. The model I drove was the 2017, but I'm not quite sure when, certain models will roll out at a certain time.
Right.
There's not necessarily like Mercedes, for example, they're rolling out their 2017 E-Class as we speak. And that doesn't necessarily mean that the entire lineup will roll out. If they strategically do it for competitive reasons.
I'm sure.
Let's get back to the Camaro.
Okay, yes.
I like the Camaro because you can get a 275 horsepower turbocharged four-cylinder in this car. Now, people might scoff at the idea of buying a four-cylinder performance car, but folks, you got to think back to the 1980s when the Camaros were out. 270, 280 horsepower was the output of their V8 cars.
Yeah.
So think about that.
Yeah,
this is the. If you want to go all out, you can get a 6.2 liter V8 that's based in the Corvette, puts out about 455 horsepower. Then they've got crazy versions coming out. I believe it's called the ZL1, which will put you close to 700 horsepower. It's not quite 700, like 670.
Wow.
That's going to be the car that's going to, compete with the Hellcat vehicles.
Wow,
but at the bottom of the scale, bottom end of the scale, for like $27,000, get a Chevy Camaro. The interior is very well designed. It features the entertainment system, MyLink. Q is the Cadillac version, but MyLink. It's just a real it's a statement car. When you see a Camaro coming down the road, you know that it's a Camaro, and you're going to have a lot of fun driving. It just makes a very good impression. The ride quality is great. The performance is great. And it's just a whole lot of fun to drive. Chevy Cruze is another one of my choices because for $17,000, you have a car that has all the safety features, roll stability control, airbags galore, anti-lock brakes, just a very, very solid purchase at the lower end of the scale. It's got Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. It can mirror your cell phone screen on the dashboard. You can put Google Maps up while you're driving. You can talk to your car via Siri or Google Now. It's just got a lot of features for $17,000.
Wow.
It does very well in the crash rating.
That's impressive. It really is impressive on that. Every time I see a Camaro, I think of the Transformer. I think they're going to turn it into as soon as I see one, I say, this is going to turn into a robot any second now. But they're very futuristic looking, but at the same time, almost retro looking back in the 60s, 68, 69 is what I remember the early Camaro muscle cars. And these look, kind of like that, but futuristic and still so modern. And you say the four-cylinder has over 275 horsepower? Is that what you're...
Yeah, but James, you're not listening to a word I'm saying.
I'm not? Okay. I guess I'm not. It's early in the morning. I guess I am. I apologize.
We've moved on to the Chevy Cruze.
Oh, the Cruze. I apologize. I can't hear very well early in the morning over here. But now tell me about the Cruze on here. Now the Cruze.
Yeah, we're talking about the Chevy Cruze now.
All right.
And comes in at about 17. 1.4 liter turbo engine is the only model available.
All right.
But got to tell you, for $17,000, kind of hard to beat. Now Dodge with their Dart may give you a little run for the money. Also comes in at about $18,000. Now the Dodge Dart, I put it just behind the Chevy Cruze because the Fiat platform, the Fiat engines that are featured in the Dodge Dart, I still want to make sure that they're on top of things with that engine. They do pretty well, but certain models have had some issues.
Okay.
Base models are 1.4 liter turbo with 160 horsepower.
Wow.
Then you have a 2 liter 4 that puts out 160 horsepower. So you have a turbo 4 or a naturally aspirated 4, both putting out 160 horsepower. And then you have the 2.4 liter 4, the so-called multi-air engine from Fiat, which puts out 184 horsepower. Now, I'm in a Jeep Renegade this week that has the same 2.4 liter 4, and it just doesn't quite have the refinement that you would expect in today's four-cylinder engines. Four-cylinder engines used to be the bane of the industry. Noisy, kind of raucous, efficient, of course, good fuel economy. They used to make a hell of a lot of noise trying to get you from point A to point B. Then you come out with cars like the Hyundai Elantra, the Ford Focus, the Kia Soul, the Volkswagens with smooth four-cylinders, and anything that's not polished and smooth these days just doesn't make a lot of sense. You can put a balance shaft on an engine, as you know. Mitsubishi. Right. I think James Mitsubishi was the first to put balance shafts on engines.
Sure did.
Then Porsche was close behind with their 944, 924 engines with balance shafts. So the technology's out there. I'm going to give the Dodge Dart a thumbs up, but I think that they could go a little bit further in terms of their engine smoothness.
Okay.
Now, to wrap out the top five.
We got 30 seconds left.
30 seconds. I'm just going to say, hey, if you want something big and fun for spring, jump in a Ford F-150. In my opinion, the best pickup truck on the market. Get a lot of stuff done. You can look good doing it. And it's a kind of a go anywhere, do anything vehicle.
So the top five, real quick. So the top five picks for you would be?
Kia Soul, Chevy Camaro, Chevy Cruze, Dodge Dart, and Ford F-150.
Excellent, Brian. That's some very good information. I cannot disagree with you. Thank you so much, Brian. I'm glad you got to call this week. I thought you were going to be in Canada, but thank you.
I'll be in Canada all next week.
So I won't hear from you next week, right?
That's correct.
All right. Well, you have a very happy Father's Day, and I will talk to you in 2 more weeks. All right. You be good. Thank you so much for calling, Brian. And everybody, I'll talk to you all tomorrow. Bye-bye, everybody.
James Auto Center, we fix it right.